Talk to me, Goose. Oh, no, oh. Welcome to the Texas Truck Channel. I'm Craig, and behind me we have the all-new, and I mean all-new segment-busting 2022 Ford Maverick. About 4 years ago, Ford told everybody, no more cars. You're not gonna get any Fiestas, Focuses, Tauruses, Fusions, any of that business. And everybody's like, no, what are you doing? But because of that, we get this. And I'm here to tell you, this is important as the Volkswagen Beetle was years ago when it first came out. Yes, it's that important. It's affordable, it's capable, and it checks all the marks for what most people want out of a vehicle. We'll get into that more with the rest of the review, but let's talk about exterior. Exterior-wise, this is in the beautiful cactus gray, which I think looks good in just about any application. But the best thing about this is it's hard to make a truck look right with a unibody platform. And that's what this is built on. This is built on the global Ford C2 platform, which gets you, in other markets, the Focus that we don't get here. And here it gets you the Escape and the Bronco Sport and the Maverick. Hardest part about a unibody structure is how do you make that pickup bed look right without it looking like a weird car and some chopped up thing. Ford knows how to build trucks, fortunately, with the F-150 and the Ranger and everything they've been doing for all these years. And they've translated it to this structure as well, and it looks great. They've done some trick things with the bed to make it look like it is separate from the cab, even though it's not. And from the just nose to the tail, they've done lots of little treatments that have some F-150 cues throughout, which make it look like a truck. With that, let's move on to the interior and see what Brian has to say with the magic going on in there.
For ages, people have been bitching at us about the price of trucks and how they want one so badly, but they can never afford it because they're $60,000 for a good one. They've also complained about fuel economy. Ford's been listening, and they've solved it right here. And the beauty of this is that it's cheap. Now, there's some moments where it's cheap. There's a few rattles in here. We've had the speakers rattle on the right door because it's just bumping a little too much. Speaking of that, the stereo is not brilliant. That's the Lariat trim. I don't know why the Lariat doesn't have better radio. Now, those are my complaints. Those are done because this is a beautiful place to sit. It is well thought out and it's not too cute. A lot of times with cheap cars, you've got these funky designs that don't make sense. It works here. We've got some octagons, we've got a unique door handle, and the color palette is bronze and blue and a different blue, and it looks great. Now, let's talk about some function in here. You've got everything you need. You've got a touch screen. You've got Apple CarPlay. You've got knobs for volume and tuning. Thank you, Ford, for keeping that around. That's the way this needs to be done. You've got a clear, easy to read cluster with a tack on the left, speedo on the right, and digital readout in the middle. You've got dual zone climate control. You've got a power rear sliding window. And the most important thing for this truck to me is the center console. There's a cubby for everything. There's a cubby for your keys. There's a separate cubby for your old wallet. There's another cubby for your new wallet. Speaking of, this episode has been sponsored by Simply Carbon Fiber. This is our wallet they've handed to us, and it's awesome. It's sleek, it's light, it's very durable, and it has a spot and detent for your cards to go into. This keeps things out of your back pocket, which is just good for everybody. If you would like to go in for yourself, check out the discount code below. And with that covered, let's cover the back seat of this thing. We've been in a lot of mid-size trucks lately, and they're not that comfy. This is the smallest truck you can buy today, and I fit in the back without a problem. That is a big deal. Also, this has a sunroof. No headroom problems here. Now, all that covered, let's get this thing in the shop and check out the nuts and bolts.
Welcome to the under the hood portion of the all-new 2022 Ford Maverick. And underneath this bad boy, we've got the 2-liter, 122 cubic inch turbo EcoBoost, good for 250 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. That comes in at 3,000 RPM. I'll just say this thing rips. You got two good things going on. This engine was originally based on a Mazda engine. I'm just saying, you got some zoom to them. Also, it's got some roots closely tied to a Focus ST engine, which was pretty fun too. So you feel all that fun in here. But don't be scared, because fuel economy fans out there, this is pretty good as well, even though it's not the hybrid. It's rated at 23 city and 30 highway, 26 combined. We're averaging on responsible runs in eco mode, we can get it up to 33, 34 miles a gallon. And that's legitimate at 75 miles an hour on the highway. Now, problem is that turbo is a lot of fun, and so we get a lot closer to that combined 26, but we hit that combined 26 consistently. It's all paired to the 8-speed automatic transmission, which maybe not the greatest, but actually one of the better ones out there. So we have no problems with it. It shifts when it needs to. And the different modes make a difference, and it's more fun in sport mode versus normal. You can tell the difference. With that, let's get underneath this thing and see what's so special about the payload capacity and the suspension tuning.
Time for the nuts and bolts on this baby, and we're going to start right away with the pizza cutters. This guy runs on 225 60/18s. These are Michelin Primacies. They are eco tires. They're a ton of fun to drive around on because they let loose immediately. They just completely give up. And we've weighed it in right at 50 pounds. It's got to be the lightest wheel we've had so far, especially for an 18. Now, all that out of the way, I want to get the front handle real quick. This is a McPherson strut up front with an aluminum lower L-arm. I'm surprised that's not steel. That's good. That helps reduce weight. And other than that, it's front wheel drive Ford. We've seen it before. Nothing crazy there. We're going to talk about the back. That's the biggest deal. 5-lug all around, hub-centric hats. We know that. This has a divorced shock and spring in the rear. So you've got your spring mounted independently from the shock. It's not a coilover design. And you've seen a lot of packaging tricks to get this outside of the bed rails. In fact, the shock mount bolts in with a sandwich plate to the body side. That's interesting because usually on a car, you would have a top mount bolt. That's not the case here. Now, there's two ways to have this thing configured. You can get it with all-wheel drive, or you can get it as we have it in two-wheel drive. With all-wheel drive, you have a fully independent rear suspension. It's mostly straight out of the Bronco Sport. It does not have the mechanical torque vectoring in the rear. This is front-wheel drive only, and it has a very simple but very effective I-beam. The I-beam is mounted right here and on the other side as well, and there's a tube connecting both of them. Think of it as the live axle of the front-wheel drive world. But they do function independently. So if you hit a pothole on the right side, the left side doesn't just lose its mind. So it's not totally the same. There is some give in the middle. They've uniquely made it. It's got a weird twist in the tube where it mounts here and goes to that side. You can tell costs have been controlled. There's some brackets here like this guy that we don't know what it's for. If you know, let us know in the comments. We just can't figure it out. We're assuming it's for an optional package that this one doesn't have. Beyond that, it's coil sprung. And the biggest news here is the payload rating is, if you equip it right, 1,500 pounds. This one's 1446. We have a Lariat with a sunroof and some other things. That is impressive for something that can get 40 miles a gallon in hybrid form, whereas we're getting about 30 in the 2-liter turbo. Now, all that jargon covered, let's get on the road and see if it's any good.
All right, that's enough nutty and bolty talk. It's time for some of that pilot crap, Goose. Hit it.
Okay. 50 and 60.
Wow, that was 0 to 60 in
7.02.
Wow.
So 7 flat to 60.
That is pretty good for a truck that you can get with this base engine starting at 23, 22.
Right, with the 2-liter turbo. And by the way, glad we're here. This happens to be the Focus ST 2-liter turbo, just tuned a little bit differently. And that was fighting wheel spin.
Yeah.
So commenting on the 0 to 60, we did this a few times with traction control on, just flooring it was about 7 1/4. With traction control off, with a lot of wheel spin, it was 7 1/2, and then feathering it and piloting it right, 7 flat.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
So we've talked a lot about, and a lot of other people talk about this. Yes, this thing's cheap.
Yes.
But how does that translate in the ride and drive? We talked about the suspension. We talked about the power plant. We know the 0 to 60 times, but how does it ride and drive for a mid $20,000 truck for a cheap truck? Yeah.
I think it drives awesome, but there are some trade-offs.
Okay.
It doesn't ride brilliantly.
All right.
And in like urban streets, like potholes and that kind of stuff, on the highway, it's very, very well behaved. The reason why it doesn't ride brilliantly is because this thing has a 1,400-pound payload.
There's a little bit of some compromises going on there, but
right.
I honestly, I don't think most people will notice that it rides stiff. I think they'll think it rides fine.
If compared to what this once was, a Focus,
sure,
that rode better.
Of course.
Now it has a torsion beam on this. We don't have the IRS with
right.
the all-wheel drive, so that might be part of the deal. But the steering, I want to really dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
This is a long wheelbase.
Yeah.
So this steering does not feel like it turns in as sharply as the Bronco Sport does.
Right. Yeah.
But the components are just as good. The steering wheel feels great in your hand, and it turns in quite quickly. It just takes a little long for the body to transition and follow it.
You would say the best handling truck we've ever driven?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, ride and drive wise, you mentioned the seats in the interior. You mentioned some of the things that we had some issues with.
Yeah.
Are they a big deal or livable?
Very livable.
I agree.
I'll say the biggest trade-off for this is that this is not a let's drive to California truck from Texas.
Yeah.
The seat's a little bit short for that, lengthwise this way.
Agreed.
But it is
good. But,
if I had to drive this to Houston, I would go, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And I do think it's going to solve a lot for a lot of people. And it's just really cool that this exists. And I can't believe how comfortable it is for the size that this thing is. In terms of, compared to a Ranger, I don't think it's any narrower in the cabin.
One of the things I want to mention as far as actually using this thing day to day, I think one of the magic tricks they've also done in interior as well,
Right.
we'll keep going back to that, is there's nothing that encroaches on your knees here.
Right.
The center console does not stick out and jet.
No.
You don't feel cramped in this. You feel like the Honda trick of making a lot of space in here.
Packaging is great.
Packaging is really good in here.
And Ford of yesteryear did this a lot, where you go, that's a big car, why does it feel so small inside?
Right.
That's not the case here.
All right, time for the hill test?
This look, it's low. So that's going to be a no.
Overland?
Look, campground roads? Yes.
Okay. All right, let's get to our final comments.
Let's do it.
Who is this car for?
Man, this is for those birds over there. That's who this is for.
Whoa. We're here in the beautiful bird paradise of Fort Worth, Texas.
As you can hear.
And these are our closing comments on the all-new 2022 Ford Maverick. And Brian, before we get into who this car's for and who should buy this, we got a hipster score to get out of the way.
We absolutely do.
3, 2, 1,
7.
6. Okay, you're wrong with 7s.
Nope.
Very close.
Nope.
Hybrid would get 7.
Hybrid would get 8.
Oh, hybrid would get 8. All-wheel drive maybe would get 6.
Exactly.
This would
That's
get
exactly
7.
where I
Okay,
was going. That's
first
exactly
time
where I
ever
was
you're
going.
right on this. You're right. So with that out of the way,
glad
first
you
time in
figured it out.
history. Yeah, record that. Save that clip. That's the only time you're going to get it.
Part of the reason why is that even in the turbo mode, you know, not the hybrid, we're getting, I got 34 out of it. An actual 34 on my daily drive.
I got a high 33 at speed against the good headwind.
Exactly. Which means you would have, knowing you and then your golden toe, if you didn't have the headwind, you probably 35 out of it.
Probably, yeah.
Now, realistically, 27, 26,
having fun.
having fun, 20. So,
Having a lot of fun.
Having a lot of fun with reckless abandon, yeah.
Okay, with that though, Brian, who is this truck for?
I think it's for a lot more people than anyone realizes.
Agreed.
My father-in-law has a lot of interest in this. He's a penny pincher of gasoline.
As a lot of people are nowadays.
Exactly. Every person that said, I love trucks, 60 grand if you lost your mind. This has got you covered. I like trucks, but the mileage is bad. Got you covered.
Yep.
And the urbanite, I think this is really what it was intended for. The urbanite city dweller that wants to have a garden, does some random DIY projects.
I'll call it the suburbanite.
Suburbanite, that's a better way to put it, because this is not New York City per se.
Yeah.
But anyone that says, I need a truck, this will do 90% of it.
Yeah.
If you off-road or tow over 4,000 pounds, that's the only reason you don't get this.
And I think that's exactly it. Most people that have a truck don't off-road or tow.
No.
And all the people that complain about trucks, those complaints are gone with this.
There are no complaints left.
I think this is an absolute home run. Once the supply issues out of the way.
Oh, which is every vehicle right now, by the way, not just this.
They've got a potential Volkswagen Beetle on their hands. And by that I mean a good, cheap vehicle for the masses that brings value and purpose. It's this. They've got a home run.
The Beetle was the people's car. This is the people's truck.
Oh, very good.
And I want to land on something here too. Ford knows how to make a truck.
Yep.
And this is not meant to be a jab at the Santa Cruz, but there's a difference. The Santa Cruz is advertised as a crossover more than a truck.
It's an SAV, sport activity vehicle.
That's what I'm getting at. It's meant as a lifestyle tool. This is meant to do work.
Yeah, they advertise it as a truck.
Yeah, exactly. And guess what? The payload shows that.
Absolutely.
Okay, with all that handled, thank you for watching. Thanks to our Patreon. We have a cup of coffee today for both of us. If you'd like to support the show and you like what we make here, go check us out on Patreon. There's a link down below. We appreciate that, and we will see you on the next one.
See you.